Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and it's just a wee quick one today, a wee pre-match preview of the game at home as we take on Davy Martindale's Livingston. Yes, I apologise, that is right. It's Livingston. We all thought that we'd saw the back of them when they got themselves relegated. We'd seen the back of the spaghetti had. We'd seen the back of the plastic pitch that looks more like a carpet with rubber balls thrown all over it. But alas, they still managed to get themselves through. Big sigh there, eh? They managed to do it. They managed to bounce back and get promoted. And here we go. We've got to suffer more Martindale ball, murder ball, terrorist football. It has been called many things, but certainly today, and against the backdrop of injuries and that flat performance against Kairat Almaty, to say you know what you're going to get just seems a wee bit lazy. But what will be put in front of us is indeed a sticky hurdle. One of those ones that you just can't be bored, like the biggest speed bump in the road possible, where you know that they are just going to sit in, bank in, 2 banks of 5, and make it difficult for you, rough you up, and hopefully hit you on the counter. So strap yourself in because the squad is looking threadbare at this moment in time. And yes, we covered it. We all know that we could have been out there and we could have went and got some reinforcements. We said before, forget the Champions League qualifier. That was just the tip of the iceberg. We needed players in the event that we got these kind of injuries like we've just got to Alistair Johnson, like we hear has happened with Austin Trusty, which has happened with Adam Ida, and the question marks over Maeda. You know, prepare properly. You fail to do that, then you prepare to fail. Hopefully, touch wood, hairy wood, real wood, all the wood, that we can get the job done. And as it says in the tagline, just win. That is all that matters. No matter how it comes across today, get the points, move on, regroup, focus on travelling to Kazakhstan and trying to get through that fixture there, secure the Champions League, and then hopefully, just hopefully, we push on and we make it happen. So we'll have a wee chat through the potentials for the squad and some other things. And before we do that, I just want to say thank you to every single person that's been following, subscribing, liking, supporting the channel. We done our board-specific episode the other day, and thanks to Kev Graham for coming on and watching that. If you haven't done it, check it out. There's two versions with the live stream that went up, and obviously with those technical issues. That seems to be a StreamYard issue for those that are watching. Those that may have followed Axom, the exact same thing happened to them on 3 occasions they had to go live. So it seems like it is a problem with the platform here and their servers. I have contacted them, as have Axom, to try and raise that concern. They believe that it might be that if you're trying to cast to various locations, like sometimes we do on our other socials, and top of here, that it can cause problems. So today, hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. Let us know if it is, and we're just direct to you guys on YouTube. But since we've done that video, go and check it out. As I say, there's 2 versions of it here, and it is this one. It's uncompromising. We deep dive the board and we ask the big questions about, are they fit for purpose? Yes, we're run brilliantly as a business, but as a football club, well, that leaves a lot to be desired. And the response to that video has been phenomenal. Just before we went on to it, we were very close to being at that 2,000. Well, we've smashed through it. And in the past 36 hours, round about 75 of you have all decided to jump on the CWO train. And we really, really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. And if you're new today, hit the subscribe button. Cost you nothing. All our content will continue to be free. We do have some members in the house, such as the Bold 420. Thank you very much. Long term, the OG, the original member. If you want to help the channel, that's the member section. It's a donation, $1.99, completely optional. Just helps put all this together, helps with equipment, helps with the server, which, by the way, wasn't working well, as I've just said, but helps put it together because we run this on a loss. We do it for the love of the game. We love it for Celtic, and obviously, as we say, you guys out there supporting this channel are the lifeblood. And there, thank you very much. Dan's just joined. Love that stuff. Love it. So plenty to talk about. And as we say before, you know where we are elsewhere. Get us on X at CW Pod 1888, Spotify, Paddy's famous TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. Connect with the channel, get the word out there, and get more eyes on this channel and this community buzzing and growing. So anyway, people, let's get down to business. As we say here, we have Livingston standing in our way. And what's quite funny when we talk about Livingston, as I just said there at the top of the show, it's we know what we're going to get for Martindale, but it's funny because when you look at Davy Martindale's Livingston in the Championship, guess what they done? They tried to play football. They actually went out and looked like a pretty decent team. As much as I don't want to give that guy any credit, he set his team up completely differently. He went out, they attacked, they scored goals. I wouldn't say they were, Barcelona on the eye, but they were certainly a lot better than what you're acquainted to or used to when you say Livingston in terms of football. But we also know that, as Martindale says, he preferred the Championship because you can sometimes go into the game knowing that you've got a chance to win. What an outlook that is, isn't it? I mean, imagine taking that mindset that he had of let's go and win games and adopted it in the SPFL. We know what's happened with them. They've come into their league so far. They had a 2-2 draw on opening day with Kelly. They came back for the dead in that one. And then, of course, they had a 3-1 win at home to Falkirk. So they're sitting not too bad. As one of the teams, let's face it, that come up, you're often thinking them, Falkirk, they're the ones that are going to be going down. And that is why ultimately you end up getting what we have seen over the years with Livingston, particularly coming to Celtic Park. It's going to be stuffy. It's going to be sitting in. It's going to be hard. Celtic are going to have to do the hard yards today. And this is where we need to discuss around about the team and how do we go about doing that. Because yes, we should have the squad, injuries and problems aside, to take care of Livingston. But sometimes they've been a wee bit of a bogey team for us. And it's one of those situations where similarly we looked at Kairat Almaty and says, well, we should absolutely have the options to take care of them. And we had more options then, but still couldn't get the job done. Now, Kairat Almaty at points, yes, they sat in and defended, and we sat here and we spoke about it after the event and says, well, why didn't we try to adapt? Why didn't we try to break through them? Why didn't we mix up the system? Essentially, what we got was something similar to what I expect today, where you have the teams really sitting in, absorbing. Now, Kairat Almaty versus Livingston. Kairat have far more better players, far better technically gifted players, more of an attacking threat, but the principles were still largely the same. And if we struggle to do it against them with better teams, better side coming out and wanting to attack, then you are going to maybe find it a lot harder against Livingston, who are well drilled. That is the kind of in their DNA, certainly in the Premier League times, to just sit in, absorb and defend. They have been trained routinely, practiced within an inch of their lives to do just that. Kairat is that part of their game. Well, I don't know enough about them, but they've certainly done it well enough. But when you have a team that they are specialists in doing that, then it's going to be even harder than it was during the week. And that is what we need to do. We need to take care of that. We need to bust through it and hopefully, as I say, get it any way it comes. I'll take an OG in off the defender's backside and into the net and 1-0. I will take anything that comes. We need to regroup. We need to recuperate in plenty of time for the game on Tuesday. And we need to use the options that we have as dodgy as they look. We need to make sure that we take care of it. But I do believe that we have enough. Getting any thoughts that you've got in terms of who you think the lineup's going to be, what you think the score's going to be, and things like that. That's what I want to hear there. Wilson straight in. He says, I hope that Yamada scores today. Mate, I hope so too, because we need some goals somewhere. We'll talk about that. We'll quickly jump on it. This is only a wee quick one, but I just want to talk about some of the updates, some of the news that's been out there. And there's Paddy, the TikTok massive. I know, Paddy, you love it. The TikTok massive. Get yourself over there. Once you've subscribed there, over to that one, subscribe to that, so on and so forth. Make this channel blow up. That's what we want. More eyes out there on us and on this community, and it is loving all of that there. So, yeah, some of the news. We saw Brendan Rodgers. We saw the press conference. We don't need to talk about what we said after Kairat Almaty. It was very much straightforward, fair. They knew where they were. I actually said at the time, I thought that Cal McGregor looked like he could have burst out green. I've honestly never saw Cal McGregor looked as sort of shell-shocked, a stark realisation washing over him as that. Now, he was saying all the right things that he has to say, the things that he said, and in his own words was, we know that we need to go over there and win. That's not a problem. Well, I bloody hope it's not a problem because, God, we need to do it. And then we obviously had the words of the manager. Now, we saw the press conference the other day in relation to this game, and we got a couple of updates. It is unfortunate. Alistair Johnson, 12 weeks out. That is huge. I mean, that is massive. And this is the thing. We look at it, and I said this, we put it on our social media. We have Tony Ralston in the house. Is he an ample deputy for games like today? Well, yeah, he is. But when we look at the second game against Kaira Almaty, and then Rangers immediately after it, and then obviously as the games come thick and fast, you've got some challenging domestic ties to sort of negotiate. I'm looking at Hibs, I'm looking at Hearts. Again, domestically he's proven he can do it, but I mean, week in, week out, with him being the only other option, and then eventually whatever European draw you end up with. Now it is more imperative than anything for Celtic to go out there and get someone that can take care of business. Go and get someone that is going to step up to the plate, that is going to give us what we need as backup, because we've been kind of a wee bit lucky. We've got away with it, as I say, in terms of the right back situation, because Alistair Johnson has been ever present and so consistent on the whole by large that he has made us all forget that the options just aren't really there. That is Tony Ralston, who has been there for as long as anybody at the club. He was there during Rodgers' first tenure, for crying out loud. Now, it's not his fault, and obviously he got that extension. He proved his worth with the Ange season. He kicked on and he earned the right to be there. However, it's 2025. I know you hate hearing that, but it's 2025. We shouldn't be depending on Tony Ralston to step up to the plate and kick us through with some huge games kicking up. And there, Dan, not only is a new member, a wee donation there. Thank you very much. We absolutely love that. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dan. Loving it, and welcome to the channel, as we said. But yes, we shouldn't be looking at Tony Ralston as a backup. And what we're doing is we're putting square pegs in round holes. It's the same when we look over on the left-hand side. We have Kieran Tierney. Inamura was brought in, and the manager, I don't want to go down the same route, but just to paraphrase him again, he essentially says he's not ready. He's not anywhere near what we need in standard. And it was there, right in the tip of his tongue. He mentioned Cork, he mentioned Queen's Park, and without saying it, lean towards that's his level. So again, look at how short it is there at that side. We're literally one injury to Kieran Tierney away from what I would actually describe as a defensive crisis. Strong words, but that is the reality. As I say, square pegs and round holes. What are we doing when we're taking off Kieran Tierney? We're moving Scales over to left back. Now, we've seen Scales over the years when we tried that to be a left back, and we get away with it. I hate doing that, but it's the only thing I can do. We get away with it at times, but by and large, you see that it is not comfortable in any way, shape, or form. There's question marks over the consistency in his actual positions as centre half, let alone making him a makeshift left back, because we need to. And then we look at other defenders. We've got Austin Trusty. We get another bombshell dropped on us. He's got plantar fasciitis, which is apparently, I had to look up what the hell is that. The manager says it's one of these things that can be problematic. Sometimes it can be surgical intervention. It's an inflammation to the plantar fascia, which is basically the part that connects the heel bone to your toes and affects the arch of your foot. So he's in a great deal of discomfort. Now, he was a guy that had a good pre-season. There was chat that he might be someone who could potentially get moved on, with other suitors looking at him, and we wouldn't have been surprised potentially, because as he wants to try and get into the World Cup squad for USA, he needs guaranteed first-team football. But now that's dead in the water. He's going to be at Celtic, which might be a good thing. Well, I think it is a good thing for us in this current situation we find ourselves in. But how long he's going to be out of the squad remains to be seen. So it gives us all these questions. There's more questions, there's more concerns than there is answers at this moment in time. Celtic always needed to go out and get a backup left back. They now need to go out and get a backup right back, and you could probably even argue the toss need to look for something additional at centre half. Now, you add that to the two wingers that we need and another striker. That's quite a long shopping list with about a week of the transfer window left. And particularly when we look at the right back situation, that's one that came completely out the blue. Do we trust our board, our football department, or our board to go out and get these people in? I'm not going to hold my breath. It's concerning times, and I don't want to be negative, but the more things like this prop up, the more things, it just is a wee whiff of COVID about it. I know I said it, but it just has that whiff of the tide just turning a wee bit against our favour, stacking the odds. But one of the positives is the manager was asked about, will this affect your status? Will you leave? People have suggested you might even walk, and he says, no chance. That in itself is a positive. That is a positive because it gives us clarity. He is here. He's going to make the best. He's hoping to get the reinforcements in to kick us on, but he has given his commitment to being here and trying to make a fist of it, whether it's with what he has or what he may have. Either way, it's given us a wee bit of clarity. He then spoke as well about the I might have to talk about contracts. It was interesting because he brought it up and he says, we had discussions of sort during the season, and I says, that can wait. Now the season's kicked on and there was a wee bit of chatter, but I want to focus on the football, which is all fair and fine well. But I would like clarity beyond, yeah, I'll definitely be here to the end of the year. And I think that's where we need to give signings, we need to give additions to maybe win them round. Now, again, we've done that show on the board and we deep dived it, and rightfully, a lot of people did say you can't exonerate Brendan Rodgers from any fault. And I will hold my hands up and say that is true. We need that. We need to say that for balance, because at the end of the day, he's bought a lot of, well, not a lot of players, bought about 4 players, right, that have cost quite a bit of money. And I know he's fed up with tags and we don't want to throw it, but it's just for chatting, for balance. Arne Engels, 11 million sitting on the bench, brought on at 70 minutes. Austin Trusty, 6 million sitting on the bench, brought on around about 65, 70 minutes. Bernardo, 4 million, a guy he brought on, wanted to bring back, sitting on the bench. Adam Ida, 45 minutes, hooked at half time. So, yeah, I'm not in any way, shape, or form defending the board. I think, in terms of blame, 80% is 100% the board, not for just this season where we are right now, but previous seasons. You look at it, insert manager here, insert manager here. Paddy, I've just seen that there. I will try to look through it. Just type it in there and we'll bring it up, mate. Shin Starts, he says, love to see that. But yes, it's a historical failing with the board. Insert manager name here that we've done it. We've always needed to push on. As we says, those 4 periods where we failed to make the Champions League, with that wee bit of extra investment, we could have kicked on. So this is predominantly a board-based issue. It's not exclusive to Brendan Rodgers in this tenure. This has been every single manager. We could have been given a wee bit more. But again, to play devil's advocate and for the benefit of balance, you can maybe understand as well where they're saying, well, there's all your players that you've bought and spent, and they can't even make the team. You want us to go and give you X more million to go and get this guy, this guy, and this guy. So I think that there's a rock and a hard place. There's something like that between the Beaks, the boards, the suits, and Brendan Rodgers, who is essentially the football department. And we said that on our show about the board. Maybe that's something that we need, a director of football or someone with footballing background who can come in, identify players working with the scouts or Tisdale or whoever it may well be, and be in the middle ground. Because right now it's the board or whoever it is, the selection committee, whatever we might have, are identifying players in brackets that they think are right, but the manager's maybe going one up against it. There's always something in between, where if you can't always get those ones, there should be ones in between. It shouldn't be from there to there, but that's what it seems where we are. So I can understand when people are saying at the end of the day, there has to be some blame shoveled at the manager and the players. And I would say that 8% the board, I'd probably say about anywhere between 10 to 15% has to be in the manager, because no matter what you want to say, he sets up the tactics, he drills them, he selects the teams, he makes the tactical in-game changes, if any, the decision-making, the substitutions. Yes, the players need to pull their weight and do it, but at the same time, they probably are just following the game plan. So that's my wee bit I just wanted to get out there for balance, and I think that's it there. And Big Rab's coming in just on Rodgers. A lot of problems he's apparently saying at clubs he's been at, including Liverpool, and the signs are not keeping a budgets under Ange. The board brought players in quickly, and the same with Lennon. Yeah, I think that, and you could always argue the toss that it might be they're swimming in different markets. If you look by and large at most of those signings for those two managers, they were slightly lower. Now, again, price never higher and lower doesn't mean you're better or you're worse at a player. But it was probably maybe easier for them to get certain players in because the markets or the type of players that we're looking at were on a different level. But I do agree with that. I said that on our socials. I said that last night on the Boys in the Bus live feed. Whether people want to admit it or not, we are in that Brendan Rodgers third season malaise. We saw it before he left the first time. We have seen it at Leicester. We've seen it at Liverpool. We've seen it at most of these clubs. There seems to be an instant boom, first hit. Second season, you can carry on. It's nowhere near as great on the eye, albeit this last season was good in Europe and there was improvement there. The day-to-day stuff was slightly less potent than the first season, at least in the eyes. And now we're in that third season malaise. So that is true to an extent. And that comes round to it. That's where managers, we always say an elite manager of his standing has to earn his crust. And that's something I want to talk about when we look at these games and the game against Kaira Almaty. It's adapting, it's changing, mixing a formation up, dare I say it? Who knows? But the manager needs to find a way for the upcoming games. So, yeah, that is where I'm at with that. But in terms of it, we know Trusty's out. We also know that Adam Ida has a bit of a knock. He praised Ida and he says that he's a good lad. He's always made himself available. It's not quite working for him at this moment in time, but it is what it is. Now, again, I do have an issue with Adam Ida being injured. No, I don't. I really don't, because it's not like he's been fit and firing and doing everything and blowing our socks off. So to me, it's neither here nor there, because, yeah, he's one of our better strikers, as people would say. He's by default our main striker, but he's not doing it. So, and personally, that's just me personally, I don't think he's that much of a loss at this moment in time. But I would still probably rather have him as an option. Of course I would. But it is what it is, and the injuries are stacking up. When it comes to the fullback positions, though, as I say, this is where it gets a wee bit desperate. Tony Ralston, no disrespect to him, but Tony Ralston, he's in situ, that's who it's going to be. And then he sits and he talks about, well, I need to look internally. I always look internally, and I want to try and bring through the youth. And we're talking about Kobe Donovan. I mean, listen, I am all for wanting to see youth come through and the likes, but again, should we be looking at this point at Kobe Donovan to see us through? No, no, we shouldn't. We just shouldn't be looking at Kobe Donovan as being an additional option, a cover. You know, we look at it, 18, which is fine. 43 appearances since 2023 in the Lowland League predominantly. We know, we've spoke about the Lowland League. It's garbage. That's why guys like Cummings and so on and so forth haven't upped their levels to break into the squad, because they're playing against Plankton. 3,334 minutes in his time at Celtic in the Lowland League. That's not his fault, but we shouldn't be depending on Kobe Donovan having to step up. We saw that when we tried to throw in some of the other young guys, that it was wee flashes. And I'm looking at Dane Murray, for example. When he was first brought in, it was like, well, he looks all right. And then he was getting caught out. Now, thankfully, he looks as if he's turned a corner. But you're talking about a guy who's nowhere anywhere near the squad and chucking him in. It just can't happen. It cannot happen. So in terms of that, what would the alternative options be? And there's a few things that have come out, and I threw it out there on my social medias, and I just want to talk about this. Again, people might not be into it, but I just want to bring it up. We talk about price points and so on. Max Johnson, right? Max Johnson. He's sitting out there. He's waiting at Stone Gratz, and the chat is they are willing to let him go to Derby for £2 million, right? Now, I get this, and I'm just throwing it out there as a name, but people will turn around and say, not the level we require. Well, here's a newsflash for you. At this moment in time, do you believe that Celtic have a left back and a right back of a certain standard that is what everybody expects, that's 4, 5, maybe more £1 million ready to go? No, I don't for a second believe it. Now, Max Johnson, right? 136 career appearances. He's a known quantity. There's a decent sample size of when he was at Motherwell. European experience, Europa Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. 21 youths on his side, Scottish internationals, right back, available. He is available, and he's going to be going to Derby for £2 million. Celtic go out and sign that guy tomorrow, no problem. Give us a wee bit of that. Now, would it potentially be a stopgap type signing? Absolutely, it would. But I would much rather have a Max Johnson in than going and getting another Diego Laxalt type situation or another loan guy that's over the hill situation in the door. I would much rather do that than the alternatives. You know, that's what I don't want to say. I mean, there's it is there. Have a look at it. You know, Champions League proper, 5 appearances, 6 in if you take in the qualifying. There's a Europa League in there. 4 games in the Conference League. He's been playing at a decent standard. And for me, I just think that a guy like Max Johnson is a very easy, it's a layup, it's an easy one, and it gives you a decent level of quality. And, you know, I get what Strangelove's saying. Trust the brickie before some random jobber. Depends on who we're talking about. Are you talking about Max Johnson? Because I don't think he's a random jobber. I actually think when you look at what he's done since leaving Motherwell, he's in a better trajectory than Anthony Ralston. Now, I'm not saying that you're talking about that guy. I'm just, when you're asking that, I wouldn't hang my hat on the brickie. And that's another thing. This is what always sort of gets I like Tony Ralston. I'm a fan of Tony Ralston, right? He wears his heart on his sleeve and gives everything for it. But it's like one of those things, ha ha ha, the brickie. Aye, the brickie. Same way we all laughed. Ha 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 ha. There's Mali of Sorrow. He cuts you in half and smiles. Like, let's get in the real world here. Let's start talking about what's actually going to be required. You've got a guy that's an own quantity playing a good league with European experience, playing in it, getting into Scotland, up and coming, 21. Now, Ralston has done well for us and he's been a good servant, but remember, this guy couldn't get into D United St Johnstone. Never forget that. Never forget how long he's been at the club and how bit part he's been. And he had a great purple patch where I says that I think that under Ange, when it was backs against the wall, nobody expected anything of that. Everybody in that team found an additional level. And that's what Tony Ralston did. He punched through the glass ceiling and he found a level that he'd never, ever been able to unlock before. The problem is, as time goes on, he couldn't maintain it. Yes, he comes in there as dependable and things like that. But, you know, you can't hang your hat on Tony Ralston every single time. But it's as if people like to laugh at it because he's one of us and he's the brickie and all that. No, please, let's get all this kind of mindset out of our head. It's the same with this sort of, like, I saw the video, look at how awestruck the Cara Almighty team were with the Champions League roar. Birthday card pish. They weren't that scared because they gave us a right good scare. So I just want to get our feet back on the ground. And again, here's another one. We'll look at some of the other positions. And again, people say, not the solution, Stevie. That's garbage. See, again, people hate me talking about it. But it's quite stark how quickly our rivals can move on to guys. Now, and again, I've said this. No guarantees. Yes, they go out and sign it. And again, it comes back to this idea, maybe we're circling and swimming in different markets. Now, they've been out and spent money, and the principle that I will always make is that regardless of whether every single one of those guys turn out to be complete and utterly garbage, or there's a couple of gems in there, one thing is the principle of backing their manager to the fullest of their abilities at the earliest possible juncture to give them the best chance. Now, as I say, they could then go and say, well, oh, they were all garbage. And how many times have they done that with managers? Backed them at the hilt, invested in it, and they went there and got them, and they turned out to be garbage. But whether it's blind faith or not, they always back the manager. And we see today reports that as quickly as Jeffrey's out the door, they might be turning their attentions to Josh Doig, who, again, I say, is when he was still over here in Scotland, was a player that Celtic should have looked at. But again, we turn our nose up to the domestic guys Look at Luke McCowan, for example, the impact he's got. See when he has stats, by the way, for Celtic side by side to Arne Engels, he outperforms him. He outperforms him. Now, again, I always say stats don't mean anything, but I'm talking about goals and assists and contributions. And he costs an absolute fraction. So, yes, that's a big proof that where you come from and your price point doesn't guarantee you're going to work. But it also makes you think. Celtic over years have been a combination of international stars and the best of the rest domestically. We've always had a Scottish DNA or a domestic DNA drip fed around. You know, think of guys like Hartley, think of guys like Lambert, think of guys like Caldwell, McManus, whatever you think of them, Scott McDonald, so on and so forth. We've always had that kind of players in and around that we've cherry picked. Even Greg Taylor, I know he was much maligned, but that's what we've done there. And the thing is, and San Fran's saying, you know, I've taken that too far. But I completely disagree, San Fran. I love your, you know, I love your support and I love your input. But my point is that I'm trying to make is it's not about who they sign, it's about how they do their business. As I say, they could all turn out to be absolute plankton, but their manager has clearly, because it's all his fingerprints over it. When you look at where these guys are comfy, he's identified and went, these are the guys that I want in. They've went, okay, we'll do it. All I'm saying is, I'm not talking about the quality. I'm talking about the principle of backing your manager. That's all I'm getting at. That's what we need to do with our manager at the earliest possible juncture, because we've got far more financial muscle than they could ever dream of. But in spite of that, they still go out and make it happen to the best of their abilities. Imagine we did that with the reserves of cash that we've got. It would make you think. And again, here's another one I just want to throw in. Josh Doig, as I says, is he potentially the solution? Well, is he going to blow my socks off? Do I think he's a massive step up? No, I don't. I don't think he is. Do I think he's probably better than the options that we have in and around the club or have had previously? Absolutely, I do. And there's another one. They've been linked with him and they've been linked with Bojan Miovski on loan because apparently Big Dessers is going out. Now, again, he's had a torrid time since moving away. But he is a player that we were notably interested in and made failed bids for. If he's available on loan, why are we not revisiting it? Have we suddenly pivoted? And see if we have. Who is this mystery player that we have pivoted away from? You know, because we looked at Orisheta and we pivoted to the extent where we didn't even get near him. And he signed for 20 for the same amount of money that we offered in January. So what is the signing policy and tactics for Celtic? That's what I want to know. There doesn't seem to be a plan A or a plan B or even a plan C. There's plan and then we changed our mind on that. That's why I'm a wee bit sort of worried. And see, saying that's exactly how you get stuck with the likes of Suter. I agree he was linked with us, but at the same time, and I know it's scant consolation, he's also been one of their most consistent players in spite of his limited ability. Now, would he make Celtic better? Absolutely not. But he has proven that they've brought him in, that by and large, he's been dependable. And look at some of the plankton that we've brought in. But anyway, moving on and trying to be a wee bit sort of more in the now. We've got the goodwill stories coming out, haven't we, after the booing and the midweek stuff? And the one is the Balaquisha situation. Now, I had to laugh at this. The price was meant to be 5 million to 6 million, and we're not backing down. It's now meant to be 4.5 million, agreed in principle with the club. But we have said that, according to reports, sent out representatives from the club to meet with his entourage. His entourage? I'm sorry. Yeah, I want him in, right? But we shouldn't have to be convincing a guy who, as far as I can see, has limited options. There was these mixed reports that he was going to go to France to a Ligue 1 team who were playing Europe unnamed, so it could have been Champions League, Conference League, Europa League. And then that all went silent. So he seems like a guy who has limited options. Why are we having to go out and convince somebody to come to us? Now, if that gets over the line, then I'm all here for it. But I would it's the modern football. I would question the credentials of a guy who's got an entourage that have to convince him. But that's the goodwill story. And as it says there, yeah, to sign 1st of September. Absolutely, Thomas. That's when it's going to be happening. And then what we've also heard is with the lackey that is Anthony Joe thrown out and saying the Jacob Bream thing's back on, and then, of course, many Celtic pages who done a wee bit of digging went, absolute garbage. There is no change in the Jacob Bream situation. So there you go. But that's where we're at with the transfer update. There is no update. It's really Balakwish is probably going to sign, and that's it. And that's it. And it's strange enough says complete and utter paper talk. See, until we see somebody with a scarf above their head, then that is all that matters. So let's have a wee quick look. Paddy Boy has thrown in the lineup here. I don't know if some of you saw that one. There was that one that got through. It was a little graphic that was put together and things like that. And it looked as if it was quite real, but nah, it's not the case. So there we go. There's what you're getting. Schmeichel, Ralston, Murray, Scales, Inamura, Bernardo, McCown, Engels, Nygren, Yang, and Shin. Oh my God. I had the absolute fear of that backline. Dry bulk stuff, by the way. Dry bulk stuff, because you look at that there, and Scales is your senior man. You could say Ralston, but Scales is your senior. I'm always in the team type of guy. The glue that's going to hold that backline together, which is funny because any time that he's played with Murray, you would actually think that Murray was the more seasoned vet. But by God, I hope those boys are ready, because they are going to have in for a rough ride. They're going to get roughed right up. And Inamura, if ever you wanted to see if he's got what it takes, today's the day. Good luck. Good luck, big man. That's what I think there. But yeah, that's that for me. I'm sorry. That gives me the absolute bulk. Wow. That's a sad indictment. I know we're having to pull guys and change with a view looking at Europe, but holy moly, man, that gives me a wee bit of fear. So anyway, I'm not going to keep you long, because we're always wanting to get ourselves together and things like that and get ready for the game. What's your thoughts on it? I will be honest, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I think that today's plum for a nothing each straw. I hate saying that. I've just got to be honest. I think it's plum for a nothing each straw. Now, we'll caveat it and saying that Rangers will shit the bed against St Mirren, but that's scant consolation, to be honest. I certainly hope that the guys that get a chance show something. I hope that Shin shows a wee bit. I hope that Inamura can deal with it, because the manager's written off his defensive qualities, and well, he's getting a chance today. I think it's good for Murray, and Ralston is what it is, because he's going to have to be the guy anyway, as it stands. But yeah, massive today when you look at that, and I hope that Shin can get a breakthrough and do something there, because again, I like the optics of what I've seen of him in that pre-season and what I've seen in videos, and we're just looking at his sort of background. I think that there's a player in there, as they say. I'll be frank and honest, and I think that the past two cameo appearances he's just looked like a smaller, fitter Ida. He's ran about and done nothing. So that's where I'm at with that one. But as I say, we're going to get ourselves together. Everybody's saying there's a 1-0 in there. There's a 5-0 for Quinny. He's went mental. I hope so, mate. But yes, I just think that today is get the win, get the points, move on, put a wee bit of pressure on the Rangers as they play a tricky game against St Mirren, and then focus, reset, get ourselves out to Kazakhstan and take care of the job there. So anyway, enjoy the game, whatever you are doing with yourselves. As I say, thank you for the support. If you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe, get involved in Celtic World Order, enjoy that game, and hopefully when we come back on tomorrow night to talk about the game, we'll be talking about a victory, no matter how it comes, and a wee bit of positivity injected into our life at this moment in time. As I say, if you haven't done it already, check out the rest of our content. Check out that board-specific episode. It's been getting some good traction. Folk have enjoyed what's been in there, and hopefully, if you haven't seen it, you'll enjoy it too. So until the next time, as always, take care of yourself, and hail, hail. One hoops, let's go, let's get it done.